love that in Love on the Spectrum, like, I don't know, Tanner and Connor pop in my head, but that Tanner, someone that's so sort of different in his sort of language or presence, is so internally loved. And you fall in love with these people who are so different. And we're looking at it in a different way. And I think that's kind of the change, where you see the humanity of every single person. And it's made me look at people with other disabilities and think, why wouldn't I go up and talk to that woman at this party because she's in a wheelchair? Do you know what I mean? And you're trying to be polite, you're trying to be respectful, but then you're like, no, that's the opposite of what I should be doing. Or I love that it's even teaching me to remember the humanity of people who might have any kind of difference. Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
A great beautiful part of the show.
That's what's so important about what they're doing in Love on the Spectrum. They really started that path of people showing the humanity, as you said.
Right.
People
and the value of every human.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. That's why whenever someone says something, even whether it's a political thing or it's something that's like, short-tempered, I always think they have a story. Yeah. And I don't know what their story is. I don't know what happened. I was coming out of a drugstore one time, and a woman and I almost hit because she was coming out of the alley and I was going into the alley. But we both had the alley in common. And I was trying to rush in to get Abby's medication before they closed. And she blocked the road. And I literally had like 2 minutes to get in there.
Oh my gosh.
And we went, brr, brr, and she flipped me off, and then I flipped her back. It was one of those. But here's what happened that was so cool is, she said, I'm trying to get in there to get the med. I said, my daughter's autistic and I'm trying to get her medication before the pharmacy closes. So if you could please move and da-da-da-da. And I don't know how it happened, but I always try to, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I totally reacted because I'm in a rush because of this. And then she said, well, I'm in a rush. And we both talked it out, me and this random person. Yeah. And then she said, can I go in the pharmacy and get the medication for you, and I'll bring it out to your car.
That's really nice.
Like it turned into a love fest of two people trying to help each other.
That's wonderful.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you just go, those are the moments where we have to understand what everyone's backstory is. We have to understand where they're coming from, whatever, and that will create the understanding and peace that we all really want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a lovely story.
Isn't that crazy?
That's beautiful.
I used to walk down the street and worry about Abby after I'm gone. And
I know my parents
that whole fear. And one time I was walking down the street with these three ladies who are Hollywood ladies. They're in the business. And there was a woman coming the other direction. She was talking to herself, and she's pushing a shopping cart. And she wasn't really well kept or whatever. Clearly she's living on the street. And my three friends literally turned inward to each other and said, look out at 11 o'clock, look what's coming. And in that moment, I just froze, and I thought that could be Abby.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe my own friends had said that. So then they keep walking, and I stop. And they're not noticing I'm not behind them anymore. And the lady comes close to me, and I just turned to her, and I said, I'm going to talk to her. Because I just had this whole emotional thing with her. And I said, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? I said, what's your name? My thing was always asking a homeless person their name. I said, what's your name? I'm Christine. I said, do you need anything? And I'm having this moment with her, and I'm carrying around the weight of my own daughter's future because my own friends were that dismissive of this woman, like she didn't exist. And then I turned to the woman like, do you need anything? Do you need anything? She's like, no, I'm fine. Like, what's wrong with you?
Oh, no.
So it was a little bit of a backfire, Aarti, not gonna lie. But you see, in the moment, that idea, that compassion that my most caring friends didn't have because they were just judging the woman because she was homeless and had a shopping cart.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, I don't know if my parents want me talking about this, but it's my story, so I'll share it. In Indian culture, girls, when they're born into families, they don't, it's a sexist thought, but the phrase is something to the effect of girls are born strangers to their families because they will be eventually strangers when they get married. Girls are kind of on borrowed time in your family is the idea that once they get married, they belong to the husband's family. You're just raising them for their husband, essentially. Now, it's not, so my parents are pretty progressive when it comes to that kind of stuff, so they didn't raise me with that kind of mentality, but that's just the culture, right? It still affected them. They immigrated here from India. So they always had this idea that they never want to burden me with Spoth, right? They never want me to have to take care of him. They think he's their responsibility, that I should always feel free to get married. You know, what if your husband doesn't like him? What if your husband doesn't want him around? What if your husband doesn't want him living with you? Blah, 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 this and that. And I've always dismissed it. Even when I was a kid, I dismissed it. You know, now I think they finally got it through their head that I'm not going anywhere.
Oh.
I will not just be abandoning my brother, even if I marry some scrub who has a problem with him, and I'd rather say goodbye to him, you know. And they recently told me something really special, that when they're gone, my mom doesn't worry as much about when they're gone, because they know that I'll be here. Like they really trust that I'll be here for him, and
That's
that was
so
really
beautiful. That's so nice.
Like, as a daughter and a sister, to hear something like that was
It's really meaningful, and I agree with you, because as a parent, I didn't want Ben to ever feel that if he wanted to go get married and move to Japan, he could do it. I traveled a lot when I was younger.
By the way, I think that's a really important thing to tell the other sibling, because I think if they raised me with this feeling of obligation, oh, well, when you're older, you'll have to take care of him, I think that would have affected me tremendously.
Yeah.
So I think that was really important to phrase it that way. It should be a choice. I shouldn't feel like I have to take care of him. It should be my choice.
Yeah, exactly. And I said that to Ben when he was younger. But here's the thing about Ben, he's such an old soul. He came to me when he was like 9 and said something like, who do you think's going to take care of Abby when she's a grown up? He said me, meaning him. And I'm thinking, where did he get this? I'd never even said anything. He instinctually already knew that sort of family like connection. Yeah. And I said, absolutely not. I said, you will go and do your life. That's why I wanted him to go to school out of state. Right. He went to Purdue in Indiana, and of course he gets a roommate with Asperger's.
He did. Wow.
I mean, that's my takeaway of the roommate.
It's kind of amazing, because I'm sure he understood the roommate really well.
He did. It just wasn't what I wanted him to go have fun, have a completely immersive, typical experience without any accommodations. And so that was just the first year. So, but he's a very kind soul, you know, because of it. He's very patient. But he even still knows today to go do and live your life and go wherever you want to go. And, you know, always just promise me you'll oversee. That's all I've ever said. Yeah. Just oversee whatever, you know, you set up and stuff. So
for me, I get asked a lot, like, you know, where does this relationship come from, and, you know, why do you do all this for your brother, and all these things. For me, I was raised with very strong family values. That's part of our culture, part of our family in general, I'd say. We just do for the family. That's just what it is. And so when I do things for Subodh, when I help him enrich his life, for me, it's not just for him. It's also in service of my parents, because they want to settle him down. They really want him to have a good life too. Yeah. And so there's certain things that I understand about this world that they simply don't as immigrants. Yes. You know, navigating social media, navigating his fame or whatever, and trying to make new friends and all these different things. There's no way they would know how to do all this. Yeah. They just can't. Right. I, as a function of being a young person in America, I kind of just learned it, you know. It's just part of my life. And so for me, enriching my brother's life is in service of my parents as well. And that's a classic tenet of Indian society as well. Yeah. So I think it's just what we do. Yeah. You know?
It's a beautiful thing, though.